Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm going to be going over the update pack for Isofarian Guard. Now, they recently did like a second printing over Isofarian Guard that came with a variety of upgrades, including new content, as well as fixing old content. And I figured it could be fun or educational to kind of go over everything that they updated and focus on the changes, because there's a decent amount here. So yeah, basically I'm just going to be going over everything that is in the update pack instructions, showcasing what it used to look like and what it looks like now. This is not going to have any spoilers in it. Maybe slight spoilers in chapter 1 just to showcase the changes in there, but I'm not going to be going into chapter 2 or 3 or any of that. So we'll go ahead and get started with the books, because those are, to me, one of the biggest updates in the second edition. So let's go ahead and take a look at all the books. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to look at is the rulebook. Figured that's a good place to start. And as you can already tell, some major differences. One, the new rulebook, so the new rulebook is this one, this is the old one, is spiral bound, which is way better, and the cover, and this is the same for all the books actually, the cover is a thicker quality. So the original was just the same type of rulebook material that you would get pretty much anywhere. It almost feels like just magazine paper. Now the pages are still that, but the cover is actually harder, which I very much enjoy. It just feels better, feels more upgraded. So let's go ahead and take a look. You open it up and immediately see a difference between content. So this, you actually get the contents and then the introduction versus just the introduction. And then there's the overview there, which you don't get until the next page. And then they talk about foreteller, because this is hugely integrated with foreteller. Highly recommend getting it if you get this game. So then we move on, and then there it goes into the components, which is how it is here. Relatively formatted, like the same, except now the content looks like it does in your actual like materials. So like the bags here, for example, there's no purple bag, but honestly, that really doesn't matter. I mean, they did change a bunch of stuff. So the books in the original was the rule book, reference guide, index book, quest book, player aid, and then the 5 campaign books. Now it's the rule book, quest book, Fort Istra and save index, city index, enemy index. So it's broken up into more books, which I'll show as well. But yeah, so now it just showcases obviously the components that have been upgraded. Still the same thing for the chips. Then they go into their foreteller, which I've already shown earlier, so that we continue moving on into the diagram. Overall, like the structure and the printing of the update is just better. Like honestly, it's kind of interesting, because you normally wouldn't ever think twice, at least I don't, of this rulebook. Honestly, I don't think I've ever actually read the rulebook full on through, because they have how to play videos, so that's how I've been following it. But like when you compare them side by side, this just looks cleaner. So then we keep moving on, same component there. Then it goes into component diagrams, which are now on 2 pages. And then it goes into the cards, which is the same there, except for some reason they went with a black background, and here it's the same color, so now it just looks nicer. Then we keep moving, same thing, except this is over here, and just kind of the same thing. But they've shrunken down. This is all big and bulky, and then now I believe we're done with the cards, whereas you keep continuing with the cards for a little bit longer, so a little bit more condensed and organized in the new rulebook. Then we go into the maps. Maps, pretty much the same, but it's all on a new page. So then we continue with that. And then it goes into starting a new game, which again is formatted a little bit better. Like for example, whenever it's saying place the 1 and 2 enemy dashboards side by side, then use another fabric bag as the event bag with the following chips. And then they actually bullet point the chips there. I hope you can actually see all that. I hope the glare isn't making it trash. Might be able to slide it over a little bit, actually. There we go. That might make it a little bit better. But as you can see in here, it just put it all in blocks of text, which can just be kind of hard to distinguish whenever you're trying to set it up for the first time. And then you look at the setup, which is actually just on its own separate page, which is very nice. Then we move on. So there's the setup, starting a new game, continued. And then we immediately go into the exploration phase. I'm going to slide over myself so I can reach. Not too much different here, except they kind of bullet point a little bit more, where it's like what things you can do in the exploration phase starting from chapter 2, and it says starting from chapter 2 of each campaign. Now you can rebuild Fort Istra, begin a side quest, caravan quest, begin a puzzle or bounty quest. Those are new in the update. And then harvest wood, mine ore, and catch fish. All that stuff doesn't say in there because, well, travel between nodes. It does say harvest, mine, fish, begin field events, stuff like that, but now it's specifically saying when you can do all that. Then it goes into nodes, kind of like what nodes are. Then it says yellow nodes, and then we move into the continued, where now it just says exploration phase continued, but then field event cards. So, which it does talk about there, but the field events are one thing that was drastically changed, and it's incredibly improved. I actually hated the way field events worked in the first edition. So then we continue moving on. Now it talks about what green nodes, those are safe nodes, which I believe they talk about. Yeah, so green nodes are there, and kind of showcases the different icons here, whereas it specifically goes into way more detail on harvesting and mining. And then what blue nodes are, which I believe were further back. Well, harvesting and mining is actually its own page where it's all on one here. Yeah, blue nodes and blue nodes here. So I mean, there's just one paragraph on blue nodes, and then it doesn't even. Oh, and then it talks about fishing. But now there's way more text to talk about how blue nodes function, and which is very good because they're very important in the actual game. Like getting a boat and going across blue nodes is kind of a risk-reward element of the game. If you're not familiar with Isofarian Guard at all, basically blue nodes let you get around a lot quicker, but every fight is an ambush. But you can also go fishing. So then we talk about orange nodes and red nodes, and giving examples on which each one of those, which now they're in this brown text instead of just being kind of the same text as an example, which even if it says the same thing, this just makes it pop a lot more. Just the formatting. I don't know if they went in and redid the rulebooks themselves or if they actually outsourced a rulebook writer, but I hope that's... Either way, it's clearly formatted way better. So then still there's the fishing, there's the harvesting and mining, and then let's see if we... So now we go into the mini-map nodes, which there's a section of mini-maps. Basically all of the cities are their own mini-map, and that's where you can go into inns, and it talks about resting, and now prestige, which is something that is new in second edition. Like there's nothing of prestige in here, and that kind of gives you it gives you prestige in each city, so kind of like how well known you are, and it also gives you access to puzzles and bounty quests, where normally there was like billboard quests you can go do in each city, but now you actually have a level up system within each city on kind of how well known you are, which is a cool element to add. Like, hey, I go to this city a lot more, so I have a higher prestige, which gives me access to more. So none of that is going to be in here, so it's its whole thing here. And what's also really cool is you get bonuses for leveling up your prestige, which is very good because Syll or money can be very difficult to come by, especially in the early game. That to rest, which allows you to fully heal, you have to spend a lot of money, and depending on which city you are at, it changes the value. So if you frequent a certain city a lot, but its resting is so high, you can increase your prestige to make it cheaper. So that's really neat. Then it talks about marketplaces, giving more examples of how buying and selling works. This is where it talks about blacksmiths, which are hugely important because, again, every city has completely different marketing and blacksmith items available. So knowing where a certain weapon is for your character, you might need to know where that's at and what you need to actually go and buy it. Also, selling. That's different in each city too. So very much more explained and detailed out. Then it continues on into Fort Istra, which I don't even know where if that's even talked about in this. It might not be, honestly, but here we are still. Now we're at customizing the guard, which is not which is not here. So now in the new rulebook, it talks about Fort Istra, which is your home base. I guess slight spoiler, but it's literally in the rulebook, and it comes off before the end of chapter 1, and that's usually what kicks off chapter 2. It's like chapter 1's like the tutorial of every chapter, and then or of every campaign. And then chapter 2 is kind of like, okay, now the open world exploration, you're now at Fort Istra. So, yeah, like how quickly the fort is rebuilt is entirely up to you. That is completely true because there are all these buildings that you can make, and they all have different levels, and they all require different ingredients to be able to level up. So you could either, you kind of have to grind, which again they've updated to be able to get things the way you want them. It's, completely up to you. You could literally spend the entire game just maxing out Fort Istra because it carries over from campaign to campaign. So there's that. Then it goes into the narrative phase or narrative event phase, which again we haven't even gotten to in the original rulebook. So now it kind of explains how the narrative event phase works, which I think is really good because it kind of goes hand in hand with the exploration. The exploration phase is basically your open world element. You can go really wherever you want. You could go and look in the city, see what side quests there are, and see what bounties there are, see what puzzles there are, and do all that and not even touch the narrative event phase. But if you want to, there's 3 different types. There's side quests, the campaign and caravan quests, which it explains all in here. Then we finally go into the guard dashboard, which is kind of there, but this explains it in way more detail, which is important because you play as guards and you need to know kind of how they work, so you're not getting your teeth kicked in because this game is pretty brutal. Let's see. Yeah, still continuing into the guard dashboard. I'm hoping this is cool. So that's all here with its armor slot, accessory slots, satchel slots, action points, and exhaustive area. Let's see. Still talking about customizing a guard. Wow, didn't realize how much was actually missing in the rulebook. That is drastically important. Then it goes into its ability dashboard and the positive. This is great. This is fantastic. With the positive chip area, negative chip area, the discard area. Hopefully, I haven't read the rules, all the way through, like I normally would. How to play is actually very good. Alright, customizing the guards. There we go. Equipment. Weapons and armor, talks about that. Then customizing the guards is continued, going into accessories and items. One major rule that they changed, and this was something you can implement actually before you get the update pack, but whenever you had stuff in your satchel, you could only change it out when you were in the exploration phase. Now they've made a rule where you can spend AP to swap something from your satchel into your main area. If we're going back a little bit, you have these areas with your weapon, armor, accessory, and potion slot. you have 4 satchel areas. You can actually swap stuff out now. So just weird things that for some reason was never considered. I don't know if that was intentional because they were just trying to make a brutal game, or if it was just never brought up in playtesting. But yeah, so abilities. Now it talks about abilities, how those work, the Stonebound ability cards, and giving way more detailed examples on the Speaking Stones, which are huge and very, very clutch. And, I mean, you can get access to a ton of them, and they can be detrimental to your character's build, because the guards do have their own play style, but they are very deep in how you actually play them. Similar to kind of like Gloomhaven, where it's like, okay, well, here's your rogue. You can't build your rogue out any way you want, but there's depth to the rogue. Same thing with the guards. Yeah, so it talks about Speaking Stone cards, which are kind of confusing, but it seems like they actually drastically explain it in the new rulebook. Then it goes into skill trees, which I still don't know. Yes. So there's the skill trees. Talks about how you gain Lux, which is kind of your XP, and then you spend that. It costs a certain amount of Lux each chapter, depending on, and you can only access them based off the chapter you're in. Like, you can't just all of a sudden get to a level 4 skill in chapter 1. Like, I don't think... Yeah, it doesn't allow you to grind that much. And those, it does say, the Fort Istra and Save Index book, which I'll showcase in a sec, you can mark it all in there, but they do give you your website where you can go and just print them off. I'm hoping that these are updated, and they're not just like the old stuff. So yeah, so then we go into the enemy dashboard, which is, I guess, yeah, so there's kind of the same thing here. As you can clearly see, like, I'm on page 41, like, it's already added 10 pages of content that was just not here. Now, there was a reference rules, but, like a reference guide, and that's been nixed completely, so they probably put it all into here. Goes into the enemy dashboard and how the enemies work. Then now we're finally in the battle phase, where it explains, you know, how you determine what you're fighting. Then battle phase continued, how you're adding enemies, ambushing, damage, defeat, all that, start of battle. And this is all actually in the start of round reference. And then goes into the guard's turn and everything that the guards can do, which again is move or swap an item, which is new. Normally you could not do that. And they actually kind of restructured the way the rounds work for the guard turns, and kind of how, just for more further clarity. Then we go on a new page, enemy turn order. It's not the same one as like guard turns, which is very nice, and explains how the enemies work. The enemies work pretty straightforward for the most part. I usually don't have a whole lot of questions when it comes to combat, which is very nice. So then we go into the cleanup phase and end of battle, which is just this wall of text. Now it's actually like victory, and then it has bullet points and headers over certain conditions that could happen. Mentions the note of Isofar's dangerous and deadly land. It can be very, very difficult. Then we go into combat chips, and this is just saving your progress. So combat chips, going over every single chip, what the aggro chip is, what every chip means, and continuing on through that. Then it goes into the guard keywords and base stats, which the base stats did not exist originally, or at least, I mean, the base stats existed, obviously, but it didn't showcase that next to them. Then it gives a full round of battle example, which is huge. Like, this is a very, very welcome addition of content. Now we get into saving your progress on page 65 versus 37 of how you save it. This game has one of the best save systems of any game, like campaign game I've played. Then variations to gameplay on difficulty levels, which it does have there. And I didn't even know that, so it's why am I not playing on story mode? I mean, I've been playing on Tenebris mode this whole time. Then an appendix, which does not exist here. And that's just amazing to have, like a glossary and iconography right there, which is fantastic. There is something new. There was a new icon, the all draw icon. That's basically what updated quite a few cards, was showcasing that symbol. Then how enemy AI targeting works, an FAQ, which is also great, and then an index, which there was a reference there, but a full-on index in the back, and that gets us to the end of the rule book, which again, if we're taking a look, here's the reference guide to the stuff, which does have like, again, more detail stuff, but why they broke it up into two rule books. I mean, I guess I see the understanding of, like, hey, here's your quick start guide, just use this to learn the basics and then use this as a reference. I get that, but, like, here's all the chip description. Oh, I did have it in there. It wasn't on the new, like, the round sheet. So there's the dashboards and all that. So basically they just combined both of the rules reference and the rule book now into one rule book, and organized it and cleaned it up. So that's the update to the rule book. Overall, way better. This is better than this, in my opinion. Like, I've seen reference guides like be handy in games, but overall, I'd rather just be in one book. Because, like, normally if you're looking up a rule, you think it'd be in the rule book, and then you have to be like, well, it wasn't in there. Now it's in the reference guide. Now it's just all going to be in one. So that's that. Next, I think we'll take a look at the quest book. Okay, so here we are with the quest book, and you can see just from a visual perspective, the new updated book looks way better. Just actually looks like a map that has color to it, and you can clearly see it says Isofar, and you can barely see it there. But like I mentioned with the rule book, the cover is a thicker quality than this. Like, this is very, very flimsy, and this is not. And it's such a small thing, but it is leagues better. Feels like an actual book. But let's go ahead and open it up. I'm not going to go through every single page because there's a million quests in this game. But let's showcase it. So straight up looks, I mean, it's lighter. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but like the coloring is lighter. But in the text, I believe, is used differently. But honestly, pretty much looks the exact same. And then open it up. Talks about side quests, campaigns, and pretty much looks almost identical. Like I said, I don't want to like spoil anything, but as far as I can tell, like the content might pretty much be the same. I don't know. I mean, the rewards might be different just because I know that they've had to include like ways for like people at Fort Istra to come in and help, but as of right now, like, it looks pretty much identical. Like, let's see, let's just go to page like 60, 64. Ooh, I almost opened right to it. 62, 64. Yeah, pretty much looks identical. Just doing a quick glance at like the rewards and stuff for this, they look pretty identical here. Like, I'd like to know. So there's this, these are the side quests. Let's see if I can find where the caravan quests are. Page 112 is where it says here. Oh, there are differences. Hold on, give me a second. And you can see it in the table of contents. So this just has campaign 1 through 4 and then caravan quests. Same thing here. So page 112, if we wanted to go that far back, so that's going to be pretty much at the end of this book. Yes, there we are. So the caravan looks to be pretty much the same as well. There's Cepheus. He's the sexiest character. I cannot wait to see how they voice him. But then we open that up, and then it showcases campaign 1, chapter 2, which is when these become available. So that is pretty much the end of this book. So then we go to the table of contents for the new book, which it goes into the Puzzle Quest maps, which are 163, which might be at the very... Yes. So now... Yeah, okay, so now it's showcasing the Puzzle Quest maps, which you would pull out whenever you're doing puzzles, and this is how you can actually... This is amazing, because I've done games, I mean, Oathsworn comes to mind, where it tries to give you a 2D, like a 3D puzzle as a 2D physical thing, and it's like, this does not work. So it looks like they have all the maps for those in the back for whenever you decide to do a puzzle quest, you can actually physically mess with it. That is really cool. So it looks like that's all done in the very back of the quest book. But as far as I can tell, besides without meticulously going through every single page and spoiling quests, not just for you and for me, the quest book basically looks the exact same, except in terms of content, but it's just now has a better cover and those puzzle quest maps in the back. So that's the quest book. Next, we'll take a look at the indexes. Hey, now here we are with all of the indexes, and you might be thinking how I was praising like the rulebook for condensing 2 books into one, and then I'm going to be praising this because it's condensed, or it's not condensing, it's actually expanding 1 book into 3, which is a huge change, but oh man, is it so much cleaner. It's honestly like just so much of an improvement. So right now, the indexes are these 3 books now. So you have the enemy index, the city index, and the Fort Istra, and the save index. Originally, it had all of them. So here's the enemy index as we open that up of chapter 1 and the different nodes, chapter 2 and the different nodes. So all the way into, the different chapters, and then the frozen wastes for the different chapters, and ice caves, and yada yada. So that is how at the very beginning was the enemy index. So now, instead of going through 20 pages looking for your index, you just have the one book. So I'm going to set these off to the side real quick so we can compare. And this is, how many pages? Still 20. Still 20 pages, but it's all in 1 book. So whenever we look at the chapter 1 for that, which I don't know if they actually modified this in any way. Just from doing a quick glance, it doesn't look like they did. But it's basically all in 1 book. So then we go into notes 61 through 84 and how those work depending on the nodes, and then the chapter. Then same thing with going into chapter 2. But basically, it's now all in 1 book, and you're not having to flip through back and forth. If you're on the way to a city, it's just like, oh, we're about to fight, immediately go into the enemy index. There's nothing else in this book you would ever need if you were just fighting all the time. And honestly, I mean, besides the fact that it's on darker print, like the background is darker, not really like that big of a deal. Like, I don't think either one is easier to read than the other. Oh, hold on, wait a minute. I think they did change it. They did modify some of the nodes. I just happened to see it. So node 85 for chapter 2, nodes 85. Yep, chapter 2. So it's a stone hunter. That's then a brigand marauder and brigand chief. So now it's a level 3 brigand chief instead of a level 2. And then the 3 skull is a brigand marauder and a corrupted brigand versus a tenebrous strider. Corrupted brigands are actually new enemies. They added like 5 new enemies to the game. So that changed. So probably just some very, very minor changes. Yeah, I can actually see on node 93, Plane Strider, 2 King's Guard, that stays the same, but instead of a Tenebrous Strider, it is a Metal Eater and Tenebrous Strider. So pretty much just modified it to add in the new enemies. But yeah, like now it's just all in one book, which is very much appreciated. So that's the enemy index. Then we go into the city index whenever we're done with that. And that's kind of its own. Yeah, so now we have the city index, which is here, which is also very nice. Again, hardcover. Now it explains how to use this book. Referencing and tracking information used in Isofarian Guard. Contains a listing of the various inns, marketplaces, and blacksmiths found at each of the 6 cities across Isofar. And kind of looks like it still has the exact same. So with this anyway, like this looks pretty much the same. But now it talks about gain prestige with the city by completing bounty quests and puzzle quests posted at the inn. And this is where it talks about the puzzle quests. And like the general rules, what they are, and like the terminology. So that's kind of its own 2 pages because it's completely new. Like immediately goes into Mir or Mir. And yeah, I haven't done any of the puzzle quests yet. I hope to jump into that, and here I also don't know if they actually made any major adjustments on pricing or like components that you need to fulfill like the blacksmith stuff. But it's like, again, doing a quick look, like it seems like it is pretty much, no, it is actually it is different because of the prestige levels. Yeah, it has to be different. So now, like for example, the Argent Blade, if you're at prestige level 2, it only costs you 1 horn, 1 iron ore, and 2 silver ore instead of the 2, 2, and 4. So it looks like it halves it. That's pretty huge. That's pretty huge. Like, so that's another way that they fixed out the grind of needing to just go fight the same enemy over and over, or hope you come across an enemy that gives you a material you can actually go out and increase your prestige and be like, oh, finally I can get this Argent Blade for half the component cost. That's really nice. We're only going to look at Mir here because it's the first one. So yes, there we are. So now, yeah, it looks like it still costs the same Sil, but then the campaign quests, depending on where you're at, like so campaign 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, looking at them real quick, it looks like it's the same rewards and same enemies, but I imagine maybe some of that has been slightly tweaked for that. And then we go into the puzzle quests, which is just not in here at all. Obviously it wouldn't be, but there we go. So there's 1 puzzle quest per campaign. And this is where it would tell you like which location it is, the victory condition, what map you do it on, the chips you need, and then kind of how each of those chips work. So what, yeah, like remove all fear chips from the Wild Plains in 24 turns or less. And your reward for that, I imagine, is increasing your prestige. But that's pretty sweet. Like, although it is a little bit upsetting that you can't just bull rush to increase your prestige with every city before you finish out one campaign. But then, Market Square, yeah, now it's like, oh, hey, you can buy or sell certain components. It used to just be 8 to buy a bone fragment here and selling it for 4. And now you could buy them for 4 if you have a higher prestige level, which is amazing. So yeah, so that's pretty much the entire market index or the city index. Like that again was just all of this, and then we go into for Istra. the Fort Istra Index, which is its own book instead of... Ooh, that's badass. I'm going to go on a limb and say this thing beats out the bear, but, well, if it's a video game bear, then the bear probably wins, because those things always are tough to kill. But yeah, so that's all that, which is amazing. All in one book instead of... all in 3 books instead of just the one. And then we get to the Fort Istra Save Index, which now, again, has a table of contents and how to use this book. This is vastly huge, which, again, you can go to their website and print off if you don't want to mark in here. But we go into Welcome to Fort Istra, Band's Request, which is pretty much the first thing that you have to do to build it. Otherwise, you just need wood, and it kind of tells you how to go do that. Then rebuilding fort. And then it goes into Fort Istra commissions, which, as you can see, does not exist. This is all new, probably my favorite upgrade in the entire upgrade pack, because, dear God, was Isofarian Guard a grind. And I don't know how no one said that, ever. But the way it essentially works is you have a certain number of commissions you get. I think they're called commissions. Yes. You get a certain number of commissions that you get, like per campaign. And you use blue and yellow cubes to represent the workers at Fort Istra. Because whenever you go there, it thematically tells you there's people walking around and people doing stuff. But yeah, it's like, why am I the one doing all the fucking work? It's like, can you guys help out? Like, we got to go deal with this whole thing all the way on the other side of the country. Can you at least get some wood? And they've integrated that into the game. So now, when you have commissions, you have a certain number of stone-bound available, and you can actually send those off to go gather those ingredients. And now, in the campaign books, it'll tell you kind of when they return, which is awesome, because you're going to naturally progress through the campaign book. So eventually it'll tell them when they're done, and now you have that ingredient. You could send them to cities to be able to be there. So thematically, you had to get the resources and carry them to the city to be able to spend them. And now you can actually have these stone-bound there, and you can kind of have access to your Fort Istra warehouse, which is, again, a thematic way of doing it. If you want to play True Blue to the game, that's how you would do it. Or you could do what most people, I assume, do and be like, we just have our shit because I don't want to have to fight 18 times to get, to get 2 rough leather. But that's here. So your first commission gives you 8, and it tells you what harvesting and mining nodes are available. So what basically this is going to allow you to do, because as you can see, to upgrade, like your lumber mill, which costs 4 pine, which is, it's super easy to do. You go to the node that has pine, and you just have the axe there, and you get max wood, and you carry that back. So it takes thematically no time at all, but in real life it takes forever. But now to upgrade your lumber mill, you need 4 dogwood, 4 ash, 4 ancient oak, 4 iron ore, and 4 silver. And to get all that, again, you can go do. But now, if you have a certain number of commissions, hey, it costs us this many commissions to go out and send these people, and all harvesting is available. Well, let's go send them to the place that's all the way on the other side of the country to get our ancient oak and our silver ore, because it's easier for us to get the dogwood. It cuts it in half and allows you to upgrade, allows you to get ingredients for weapons and the blacksmith available. It's just huge. Now, unfortunately for me, I'm in I'm in campaign 2, so probably what I'm going to do is go through campaign 1 and figure out, okay, how many commissions would we have gotten, when would they have been ready, and probably just arbitrarily, give us stuff of, what we could have spent it on, because, Yeah, we would have missed out. But yeah, you can see all the way up to commission 5. And you actually can get rewarded with more commissions that you keep track of. So certain places are restricted, but it looks like all the harvesting nodes are available. It doesn't seem like those actually. And then also there's enemy drop nodes, so you can send them there to get certain enemy drops, so you don't have to hopefully randomly come across it in the index. And yeah, then it goes into the different upgrades there for the barracks. I think one of these is new, if I'm not mistaken. So there's the barracks. Then we have the training yard, which is challenges. I'm trying to see. Yeah, it looks like challenges are different. There's a for the king. Yeah, because this is called going green. So for the king, I wonder if that's still the same. Nope, that looks different. So they might have changed how some of the training worked. And these are ways that you can get really good upgrades if you actually complete them. Yeah, looks like the rewards are now different. Like, what is that? Combat tactics? Yeah, there's ice cold. So man, did they like completely revamp the training yard? It looks like it. These all look quite a bit different. Or they could be. Oh, there's for the king. Okay, so for the king was just up. Yeah, it's right there. Okay, so they might have just moved them around. Then yeah, they have way more challenges. Way more challenges because I'm still continuing and we're already done. Yeah, so here's the rest. There's the upgraded training yard. Now we have advanced challenges, which again change. Yeah, because I believe every guard got like a new card that probably come from here. So these are for, yep, that all makes sense now because I remember seeing these when I was changing. I'm like, man, how do you get that? So, which is new too. There's deflect. Yeah, advanced challenges. Continuing with the advanced challenges, then we're done there. Then we go into the Fort Istra blacksmith, which you obviously have to build for, and now that gives you access to new items. It looks like they changed the items you can get at the blacksmith too. And then there's the upgrade, which is Baron's Forge, which it looks like you need a specific item. I've actually come across that item whenever I was searching through. I'm like, oh hey, bring to the blacksmith, how nice. So let's see. Yeah, this is probably where you get like all the gross OP weapons, and that you need to get. But the commission system, I'm hoping, makes these a lot more easier to get. That would be very ideal. But actually, the forge, 1, 2, 3, so 6, 12, 15, 17. So 17 items now at Baron's Forge versus just 12. So it looks like they add a little bit more to the Baron's Forge. And now we have traveling blacksmiths. I believe this is new. Yeah, I don't remember ever. So there's the traveling blacksmiths that you can come across that have these unique items that you might be able to upgrade. That explains why some of these, yeah, there's like new items that the game came with, the upgrade pack came with, and I'm like, well, I'm not seeing where these are, so I guess they're new items. So that's pretty neat. And yeah, looks like new. Yeah, there's Wilhelm and Nadia and Bannon and Gandar and Karis. So I thought that was a gun for a sec. I'm like, okay, I want the gun. So that's pretty sweet. Just different, just more fleshed out characters to the world. That makes the mag sense that there would be just people who are roaming that you can come across. That would be neat. Then we go into the apothecary, which again I've never really used, although because you can get equipment or items that are for the apothecary, but you have to create the apothecary. Not sure if that's ever really worth it, but it might. And that looks relatively the same. Then we go into the courtyard, and now it adds spirit boss challenges. Campaign 1 book will direct you to this index when spirit boss challenges have been unlocked. So now you can try to complete these challenges that give you more unlocks. Yeah, so here's all the spirit boss challenges that give you way more upgrades, like this universal stonebound abilities that anyone can now have, depending on which one. All requirements must be met for a challenge to be completed. So it tells you which, like Campaign 1, Gregory and Alex defeat all requirements. Guards may not use the guard ability cards listed below. Guards may only use 1-star weapon and armor cards. Guards may have each have up to 3 item cards in their item slots. Chip bags must not have any green chips at the start of the battle. So, and it tells you kind of what to fight. So, just more intense fights to be able to hopefully gain some really cool rewards. So, just really more stuff to do at Fort Istra, which if you aim to do that, then you will probably be rewarded for it. And then it goes into the stash. This looks pretty much the same. Again, you can go to their website to print this off instead of going in the book. Looks like they just give you others more. Yeah, there's more speaking stones that was also added to the game. So just basically modified that to include that. Then just kind of goes into the different campaigns on what to save. Now this is going to be interesting. Yeah, so then we go into the skill tree index and how the skill tree works. And now I'm very curious. So here we are with Gregory. So it looks, now it actually shows you what you start with. So that's really cool. It'd be really neat if there's a way for you to modify that, kind of pick different things, but you start with guard, feint, and advance, and cross slash. So it's your 4 starting. That's just a nice touch. And then you break off from there. Let's see. It looks like it's the same. 10 lux, 25, 40, 75. Yeah, so the cost is still the same. And it looks like at a quick glance, the pathing is all still the same too. But now it just shows the cards that you actually start with. And that might be the same. Yeah, Reinforcement, Crimson Tonic, Cerulean Elixir, and Golden Portion. That's all there. And I'm not seeing anything immediate that's different from that. So it looks like they didn't modify this all that much, at least for the first 2 characters that you start with. And then the save index, which I opened right to, just gives a better example of how to use that. Oh, that's because I have to add in the commission, so you have to put it in a spot for where your commissions are, which is very nice inclusion. But I mean, all the different save indexes and the end of campaign save indexes, which again you can go to their website and print off instead of having to mark in here, which I would highly recommend you do. If they have already updated it, I would recommend that you do that because it's just going to be that much easier. But yeah, so that is all the indexes. It used to be 1 book, and now it is 3, which I just think is way better. Like this feels like it should be a little bit much because it's like you're digging into more books, but honestly, with how succinct it is, you're going to a city, you just need this 1 book. You don't need to flip through this massive one to find out which one you're at. It also is going to give more detailed examples. The Fort Istra, there's way more to do now. It's amazing. When you're looking for a specific thing, you know which book to go to now, which is awesome. So that is all the indexes. Next, we'll take a quick glance at the Campaign 1 book, but probably won't stick into that too much. And yeah, so that'll be that. All right, so now we are going to take a look at Campaign 1, the books anyway. And this is going to be slightly spoilery for Campaign 1. And originally I was going to do that many spoilers, if any, but I was looking through the new book because there are new rules that were getting implemented in the update pack, and I kind of wanted to see where they were at. So you might see some pictures or things, but I'm not going to go into detail on that. But overall, the campaign books are roughly the same. I don't think they made any like narrative changes or storytelling changes that I'm aware of, but they do kind of have new sections that I think are going to be greatly appreciated. But you will start off pretty much the exact same. Like nothing changes in table of contents, nothing changes in the opening, like the prologue that jumps you into that. I'm not going to go through every single page here, but a few sections that are pretty important are going to be like the end of chapter 1, like whenever you actually get to Fort Istra, which is, let's see, page 17. Let's see if they're roughly the same pages they are. So it kind of will go into how the tutorial is now over, and then the end of chapter 1. And I was curious because now you have commissions, and throughout the campaign book, it tells you when those commissions are over. And that is pretty much at the end, well, actually, after your very first boss, it tells you that spirit challenges are unlocked, and that is in red, which is very nice. But at the end of chapter 2 is actually when you get your very first Stonebound have returned from commissions, record gathered materials in the Fort Istra stash, which on page 41, you just don't get. But everything else pretty much stays the same. Tells you new caravan quests are available, and so on and so forth. But, excuse me, there is a section in chapter 3, I think it's towards the end of chapter 3, actually. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, Stormbound have returned from their commission, and I thought it was like, oh man, is it only at the end of every chapter? It's not, but every time it does mention it, it will be in red, which is very nice. Now, of course, I can't find any, but oh, here we go. 48. It's actually right there. So this was something that I thought was very nice. One, the picture is badass, but one, this is in the middle of chapter 3, or at the very beginning. They've returned from their commission. But now it gives a warning on narrative sequence will begin at the start of the next scene that will continue until the start of chapter 4. So this is very much appreciated because I've already completed campaign 1, and if you're trying to do side quests or puzzle quests or training yard missions or any of that you want to level up, and you start a mission and it just keeps going, you're like, when are we going to get to stop? This is because it didn't tell you ahead of time that you kind of had to keep going and there was going to be no break. Now it does, so this is very much appreciated. And I imagine it's like that throughout the rest of the campaigns. Not going to go through the rest of the book. I just kind of wanted to showcase one. Again, the book is now a harder cover, which is very nice. And I'm not sure how frequent that Stonebound return from their commissions, but it does seem, at least in campaign 1, it's kind of at the end of chapter 2, and then sparingly throughout chapter 3. I did see it a few more times, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be always at the end of a chapter, which would just be very annoying. Overall, though, like the page count, I mean, it's 92 in the new one, and it is 92 in this one as well. So same page count. Looks like they didn't really restructure that at all, which I wasn't expecting them to. Their campaign is pretty solid, at least through the first one, because that's what I've completed. So that is that, and that brings us to the end of all of the books. So now we'll actually start taking a look at some of the other stuff that they upgraded. Okay, now I wasn't quite sure whether or not I wanted to actually start with this at the beginning of the video, but I think after looking at all the books, this might be a good a good next thing to take a look at, which is the player aid. This is something that you will most likely be living in more so than the actual books themselves. This is a very good, I mean, even the original was pretty handy to look at. So they've kind of restructured this whole thing. One, it just looks lighter, it's not as dark, so I think it actually kind of flows a little bit better. But what's interesting is they have, I thought it was, there it is. Yeah, there's one more thing that they added to the end of battle, and also kind of like new rules on falling in battle instead of on defeat and then retreating. So now they kind of restructured how the guard's turn looks. In the original, it was like, checked equipped accessories, okay, that's correct. And then number 2 is discard any active blue cubes on both guards. Now discard any active evasion chips and blue cubes, so it looks like evasion chips no longer get removed. Choose a guard to activate, choose a guard to activate. 4, if your bag is empty, so if guard's bag is empty, refill bag with chips from discard area. If bag is not empty, you may choose to lose 1 HP to refill bag from chips in the guard's discard area. It says that in here, but now in bold it says this is the only time you may refill the guard's bag in this way. Then draw chips, and now it actually says draw chips equal to active points. Only black chips count against draw, and players must draw until the count is reached or the bag is empty. Resolve any positive or negative chips as each is drawn. So now that's more further clarified. And then the next actions you can take. So now you have the added action of move or swap an item from a satchel slot by exhausting 2 AP. And that wasn't an original rule that you could do. And then activate the other guard, repeat steps 4 through 6, refresh exhausted AP, and then place the aggro chip on the person who acted last. So that was basically the guard's turns. Then enemy AP looks pretty much the exact same, except just a little bit cleaner. Like the step 5 is now all on one text, one line instead of 2. And then the cleanup phase, discard all chips except green evasion chips and return them to the supply. Discard all chips from guard abilities, discard all chips, and move exhausted speaking stone gems to ready slots. So that's all pretty much the exact same. Then the retreat steps, gray AP is not refresh and no rewards because you can back out of a fight. The fall in battle looks to be roughly around the same. And where is that? Yes. If both guards fall in, so if one guard falls in battle, but then they come back, they come with 1 HP. If both guards fall, then they go back to their spawn point and with 20. End of battle. Collect rewards, return all cards, chips, and enemies, return all black and purple chips, return green chips, red chips, and so return black and purple back to the bag, return green, red, and green AP back to the supply. Do not remove any chips from either guard's bag at this time. Refresh all gray AP, flip all guard ability cards, move all speaking stones back to ready slots, and now remove purple cubes from all accessories. So that's just more fleshed out. So that is the start of a round. Now here's going to be your biggest change is going to be in the middle. Might not look like it, but it is, because one, now all the mining locations are here, and it's just actually what's missing there? Oh no, it looks the same. It's just like a little bit formatted. Now you have AI targeting, because the field event regions, this was the most obnoxious thing that they added. Like you looked at this the most because you had 3 different decks of field events that made no sense on why the nodes were what they were. It's just like, oh man, this area here, it like is in a, like that's in a field area. Is it the green? Is it the green deck? No, it's the red one. What? But the field events have been completely restructured, but you lived in this. Now this is completely gone, thank God. And now you go into AI targeting, and it goes into the abridged iconography, way more on what certain icons mean. Instead of looking in the rulebook, the biggest new one is the all draw icon, but all of those are now there. Like reactive indicates the card has a persistent passive effect written on that will only trigger when specific conditions are met. That's great to know. But yeah, I mean, still the same ones that were up there are now here, except there's just more now that is up at the top. And then the AI targeting is very nice to have. And then the guard keywords and base stats, just formatted and structured a little bit different than including the base stats that originally were not there. But like showcasing, like Grigory, for example, activate one of Grigory's guard ability cards that features the chain keyword, and that is kind of there. Now, honestly, I kind of like that it would say chain, like all of the keywords were there first, because that's on that's every single guard. But honestly, probably further explanation, this just looks better in my opinion. And then we go to the back, where you just have the exploration actions, all the actions that you can now do. That is in a brown background, so it's sectioned off from all the combat chips. There's all the combat chips, that single and double sword chips that are just condensed. It just looks cleaner, so you don't have a single green single, black double. That all, it's like, well, obviously those are used as swords. And then kind of like some quick reminders. Black chips are the only color chips that ever count. I mean, it was stated there, but now it's all at the bottom. And that's the player aid. Like, formatted a little bit different. I feel like this is going to have a little bit more oomph to it whenever you're referencing it as you're playing. Not that this was bad, but this just has a little bit more detail and includes stuff that is new to the upgrade pack. So that was the player aid, and that should be everything from a rule standpoint. So I think next we will take a look at the field event cards. All right, so now we're going to take a look at one of the biggest upgrades to Isofarian Guard, and that is the field events. Up here are the 3 original decks that the first edition had. And basically how it worked was you had this blue deck, this red deck, and that yellow deck. And like I said, when you were going from node to node, if you ever drew a compass from the bag, you would have to put a purple cube on one of those decks. And once there were 3 purple cubes, you had a field event. Well, these numbers at the bottom do not correspond to the node that you're on, or what field event. You had to look in the player aid that I showed earlier, and it's like, okay, we're on node 12. Where is node 12? Oh, node 12 is actually the plains region. That's the yellow one. So you had to put it on the yellow deck. That is horrendously bad. Every single time that you drew a compass, you would have to look in, because it wasn't like one-to-one. It wasn't intuitive in any way on how you were actually gonna which deck you put the cubes on. And you also could see what your potential events were. Now, I don't play looking at that, so I would just put the cube on top of the deck, but it's like, oh, you're in the plains region. That makes me think it's going to be yellow. Nope, it'd be red. And it's like, oh, you're in the forest region. Okay, I guess is that yellow? Nope, that's the blue deck. No idea why it was done this way, but the upgrade is so much better. So now you have 4 decks. One, because these still correspond to the 3 kind of decks already, and I think they included more events. So now you have a 4th one that corresponds to the blue nodes, because thematically it's like, why am I having this encounter that sounds like I'm on land while I'm on my boat? So now you have an entire new deck of blue nodes, that, because you can still draw a compass while you're on while you're on your boat. So now you actually have that specific events that tie to the water areas. On top of that, each of them now has a cover, so you can no longer see what event you're going to have. And all of those covers have a spot for you to put your purple cubes, so it's just organized better. 1, the icons are way better. And 2, the best thing about this entire thing is it tells you what nodes each deck corresponds to. So if you draw a compass and you're on node 112, you can look, and well, there is no 112, but you're on node 104, you can immediately look and be like, oh, node 78 through 108 is this deck. That's where I put my cube on. Just makes it way cleaner. There's now more options. No, there's not like tons more. I think it was 20. If these are node 6, this is 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, there's 20 per deck. And now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I think 40. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 45, 36, 37, 38, 39. Yeah, so they literally doubled the amount of events on top of adding a whole new deck. And on top of that, what I'm not showing is they actually now had added 2 dividers, one for field events and another for completed field events. Because what I originally thought is once you complete one, you put it to the bottom. I mean, you don't have events all the time. Because even if you're drawing 3 compasses in a row, that's still 3 nodes you're moving to for one event. So 40 in each deck is actually quite a lot. But yeah, this just looks way better, and I cannot wait to actually implement this because I hated having to look through that stupid book because I couldn't. I'm like, which node? Like, which node does this which deck does it correspond to? So these are all gone now, completely. It wasn't even like, oh, put these in there. It's like, nope, these just do not exist, and these are now the new field events, which I am very much appreciative of. So that's the field events. I don't want to spoil any of these for you, but yeah, this is just a way better system. Yeah, so I guess now, after that, we will take a look at the prestige cards. Okay, so these are what the prestige cards look like. Now, I'm not going to show every single one for every city, but I wanted to show at least 2, Mirror and Razdor, and the different levels that you can go up to on each of those, because they are slightly different. Now, one, it has different art on them, which is very nice, but like down here are the prestige level 1s that you can get to, so it just tells you exactly what the benefit is for being at that level. So Mirror +1 and Razdor level 1 both let you stay at the inn for 10 sil instead of what I believe to be 15, which is really good because that's just something that you can get for completing bounties or puzzle quests. So it kind of incentivizes you to go after those. One, for the rewards of doing those, as well as the benefits for increasing your prestige. That does carry over from campaign to campaign. And having a lower cost of being able to stay somewhere to heal max is very good, because that means your money goes that much further to potentially buy items or things like that. Then you go to level 2, where it tells you reduced market pricing, reduced crafting requirements, as we saw in the market index, or the city index. The differences seems like, at least in those locations we looked at, it was half the cost of those requirements, which again is huge, because even if you are grinding, you're not basically grinding 1 for 1. If you have a prestige level 2 at Mirror because you're trying to get a particular item, that those components that you grinded for, at least half of those now you get to keep, meaning you need less for a potential item, which means you could also get more than one item. This is all in theory, but yes, so now that's at level 2. And then prestige level 3, which is the max. The reason why I'm showing that is because I was like, oh, are they all the same? But no, the level 3 benefit is different per city. Mirror gives both guards a maximum of 2 HP. That's really cool. And then Razdor is your party maximum for harvesting increased to 8, which is also awesome because you do have a limit on how much you can actually hold. And some of the upgraded cards increased how much you could actually harvest. Normally, if you went to go harvest pine, for example, you would get 4. Now, you can have 8, which again, if it's half reduced crafting requirements or half, then now you can just hold more and use more. So you would actually look at the level 3s for each city and see which one you actually kind of want to focus on to get that level 3 benefit. This is really cool. I enjoy this quite a bit. That it's just something neat to go do. That's assuming that the bounties are fun and the puzzle quests are fun to even increase that. But because it'd be awful if it's like, well, we really want that benefit, but to do that, we have to trudge through a bunch of shit. I have no idea. I haven't done any of those, but I like the idea of the prestige leveling up per city. So those are the prestige cards. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it whenever we're looking at the upgrade stuff for Isofarian Guard. Those are the major differences that this upgrade pack came with. Like, basically, everything I showed was, because the rest of the stuff is like, okay, you upgraded all the ability cards for the guards. Well, looking through them, most of them did not change, except now there's an icon, a little icon showing on every card to show who it goes to. Some of them, there were some new cards, like one new card that comes with, like, for the challenges, like for the new challenges that you can unlock. Those came in. They added 5 new enemies that just had new cards. I didn't feel like that those were like super worthy of showcasing. Some of the Tumani Raider and the Tumani Hunter and Mender, they included some more cards, like a new leveling system, or not a new leveling system, a new like difficulty star ranking for those. Then they added new square cards, some getting replaced, basically with just the new icon. Like, a lot of the stuff was basically showcasing that new all draw icon that had the 4 colors in the circle. And then they added 14 map chips to replace that now have an icon on it that's showcased during the puzzle events and things like that. But my overall thoughts on the update pack is I am extremely excited to implement all of this, because, like, by the end of Chapter 1, or Campaign 1, that grind was just so obscene. And it's like, I would love to know who was legitimately doing that. Because I started Campaign 2. Like, I recorded Campaign 2. And, like, we finished, like, the first chapter. And then at the very beginning of the second chapter, we got into a fight that was 2 hours long. We moved 1 node and got into a 2-hour-long fight. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, because 1, we're making no progress, and 2, we're looking at the items we want, or the materials we need to upgrade for the Istra, and it was just like, looking at how insane that would be to do ourselves. It's like, no one's doing that. No one is being like, we need all these ingredients that take us, all the way from point A to point B, back and forth, because we can't carry anything, node by node by node, for a potential 2-hour fight to get 4 wood. That's awful. So we scrapped all that and was like, let's just wait for the update pack. And so far, it seems like the way that they went about fixing that is admirable. Because it's like, okay, like, this is all in theory. In practice, like, it could still be a grind fest, but it seems like they made a tremendous effort to reduce that, to give you a in-world reason why you need to have these ingredients. So it's like, oh, end of chapter 1, you have 8 stonebound that you could send out, and it tells you how many nodes or how many cubes you need for them to carry. It's like, okay, well, what items do we want? What items can we go get ourselves? Let's say we want to do this quest. On the way to that quest node, these are the harvesting spots or the mining spots that we can go and carry ourselves. Okay, what's out of our way? Now we can send someone to go get that stuff. And it still takes time for them to go do it, but that's fine, because eventually they'll come back and boom, we got it. Now, or we need a particular resource. Hey, for this sword, we need a bone. Well, we don't have any bone. But it's available for them to go harvest. Okay, let's send them out to go get us a bone. So now it should, in theory, exponentially increase like, one, gameplay, and two, so you're not struggling the entire time. You're not getting your ass handed to you every fight. Because you're able to now spend those resources that would take you forever to get, you can now spend it on upgraded gear, which means you'll be able to get through fights quicker, which means you get more lux and you get more sil, so you can then use to go out and, level up or spend at an inn on more ingredients. So it should just advance your gameplay that much more. In terms of like the spirit challenges or the training yard or the puzzles, those all sound fun. I don't know how they're going to work in theory. I'm hoping the puzzles are just that. I'm hoping the spirit challenges, because you look at some of the like rewards for some games where it's like, okay, that is nowhere near good enough to trudge through that quest or that fight. I'm hoping that those could be really cool. Like maybe it's like you look at it and it's like, ooh, what's the reward for this? Ooh, it's a unique card for me. Oh, that'd be perfect for the build I'm going for. That's going to be awesome. The prestige leveling for each city, again, should just expand upon the commission system. Because now it's like, hey, those ingredients we can harvest, we can now hold double that. And these are the stuff that we need, and we can actually send someone to that city so we can just have it all in Fort Istra. To now where we can actually use the blacksmith in the city. It's going to be hopefully exciting. The field events, that's just going to be such an ease of play kind of thing. Like not living in the play array to figure out which node ties to which. You can just immediately be like, oh, it's a compass. We're on node 18. That goes there. Boom. We're ready. Oh, that's our third one. Remove the cover. What do we have? I'm just so excited. And like the fact that there's more rules. It's all condensed. All the books are just now immediately just accessible, where it's like, okay, what city are we going to? Grab the city index and look through that, and this is the city we're at. Oh, we're at Fort Istra. What do we need to upgrade the blacksmith? Boom, we're in the Fort Istra index, looking through that. We have the training yard. Let's see what challenges we can do there. That could be fun. I'm tremendously excited to like dive into the new stuff and hopefully not have to struggle with just getting resources, and hopefully the grind is lessened, because like I don't want to sit there and look at all the new stuff and be like, well, not going to use any of this, the grind is still horrible, I'm just going to say I did all this shit, I'm going to pretend that I spent my very valuable time getting that stuff, and I'm just going to say I got the stuff. It's hopefully it allows me to play the game as they're wanting players to play the game, but in a more refined sense. So we shall see how that goes. Also, on top of the fact that now side quests and caravan quests and all that are going to be voice acted, which is very good, because it's like it kind of sucked having the good voice acting and then I'd have to read pages of the caravan quest. It's like there's a lot of text here. I'd like for it to be voice acted. So that's going to be really cool. The one thing that kind of sucks a little bit that they didn't really do is if you were in the middle of a campaign, like there wasn't anything like no catch-up mechanism. So like me, for example, I'm in campaign 2. Well, certain stuff carries from campaign to campaign. Like obviously I can't do the puzzles. Like I can't go retroactively and say I finished those. So it's like, all right, well that's fine. What about like the commission system? Well, if I had the commission system for that entire thing that I've uploaded on my channel for campaign 1, how like I should be getting something. If I had the commission system, I might have better weapons. I might have better items. I might have Fort Istra upgraded a little bit more than where we're at. So I wish they kind of gave like a quick upgrade thing for those situations. But I mean, in all honesty, like that's not really that big of a deal. Like I can literally just look through the camp, like read how the commission system works, look at what was available at those point in time, and then just kind of come up with my own thing on what we could have had. and instead of being like, oh, which items do we need specifically, I could kind of like give a rough estimate on what I need. Maybe give each of the guards a particular weapon or item that was a higher level, and then maybe get a new building or upgrade a building that we have already in Fort Istra. I don't know yet. I don't know how I'm going to do that. But overall, like, we're scrapping everything we did for Campaign 2 so we can start that anew with this new stuff, and hopefully that makes for just a better ease of access, especially for the series. But yeah, very excited on what they brought with the updates to Isofarian Guard. Keep an eye out for the series, and let me know what you think of the upgrade system or the new upgrade stuff in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.